Hey guys, thanks for coming back and joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. Glad to have you back. So today we are going to talk about the boogeyman. Those of us of a certain age or older, I remember when the John Carpenter film Halloween came out in what, 78, 79, somewhere in there. It was late 70s. And Michael Myers, who was the bad guy in that movie, was referred to as the boogeyman. And the kids in the movie saw him a couple times and talked about him, and no one believed it. And then people are dying, and et cetera, et cetera. And I used to think that most people don't believe in the boogeyman, but as I've gotten older and kind of watch how people react in a lot of situations, I'm not so sure that's true. So I think a lot of people actually do believe in the boogeyman, and so the term most used, in my opinion, to describe the boogeyman is they. I cannot stand the generic they explanation for a problem or the culprit to a problem. So, what do I mean by that? Let's dig into that a little bit, and then we'll talk about some things you can do to avoid taking this thought process and allowing this thought process to control how you react in situations. So, I just here's the dictionary definition of they. That's what I want people to focus on. They is used, to refer to two or more people or things previously mentioned or easily identified. It's those last two issues or two definitions, two parts of the definition that are important. Previously mentioned or easily identified. Using an example sentence, the two men could get life sentences if they are convicted. So the two men is clearly in that sentence who they refers to. It's not hard to distinguish who we're talking about. But I would argue that when you hear they used generically in the real world, you have to push back hard. And there's a couple of like real world examples right now that I can think of, but let's go a little bit further in this and we'll talk about some real world examples. So, what is they being used in a non specific way? What's an example of that? I'll give you some. They screwed me on that purchase. So who's they? Who's the they in that? They say you should diversify your investments. Who is they? I want to know who they is. They say we need to lock down our country for 2 weeks to slow the spread of the virus. Sound familiar? Who pushed back on that? Why were we not questioning what facts or research are you using to make this terrible economic and personal decision for many people? They say we should listen to them for the greater good. I hear that a lot in political terms. Like, I know best. You elected me. I know best. I shouldn't be accountable for what's going on. So they, who is they? I want to know who they is. Um, we had in our business, we do what's called pre-book products. If you're going to write an ad on something, you need a lot of that product, and so you book it 2-3 months in advance in some instances, sometimes even longer. It's very easy to forget how much you booked, when you booked it, who booked it, et cetera, et cetera. And that product will just show up once it's received in the warehouse. It'll be put on your next load, and it shows up at your warehouse. And so you'll get a call from someone who says they sent me 3 pallets of toilet paper. They sent me 2 pallets of apple juice. They sent me 3 pallets of sugar. And that's always my question. Who's they? Who's the boogeyman? Who's they? What does they mean? I'm happy to get it sent back. I need to know for sure that you didn't book it. Can you go back and look at your bookings? Can you go back and look at the electronic footprint of who did what? And every time I ask that question, I only one time that I remember um, found it to be an error that was made by the warehouse. Every other time, it was someone at the store who had made the decision to purchase that product, and that's not even a excuse me. That's not even a problem. It could be good product. If you get a good deal on something, it's no problem to bring in 3 pallets of sugar or whatever. Um, but to not know you're doing it and to not remember that you did it, that can be problematic. But what people have a tendency to do is when they feel helpless or they don't understand what is going on or can't figure out a solution to what is going on, they want to blame other people. That's where the generic they comes in. You'll see this a lot in politics. So the example I can think of right now is this price gouging proposal made by Vice President Harris and her team. So if you notice, there's a kind of a generic straw man thrown up of food companies and grocery companies. Which food companies? Which food companies are actually gouging people? And where's the proof that they're gouging people? If they knew they could price gouge, why weren't they doing it 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago? This all gets blamed on, or this particular issue gets blamed on greed. Were they not greedy 10 years ago? Were they not greedy? Were there no greedy people 20 years ago? Were there no greedy people 30 years ago? Where's your proof that there's price gouging going on simply because prices have gone up? I can tell you that we took and I have been involved in thousands of meetings with vendors. And so when a vendor presents me with a price increase, I ask for specifics. What specifically, because I get rising production costs, what specifically are your rising production costs? Is it your labor? Is it your transportation? Is it your electricity? Is it your raw ingredients? Is it, what is it? Did you buy new machinery that you have to pay for? What specifically, is it the tin? Is it the cans that your product is in? Or the cardboard, the boxes that your product is in? What specifically, and how much, what's the component of your total cost that price makes up? Is your cardboard 2% of your total cost of product? Is it 22% of your total cost of product? I want to know those details before I'm willing to accept your price increase and charge my customers more. So I can tell you, I personally have participated in thousands of those meetings to push back on price increases because groceries are a commodity. You can buy them in lots of places. One of the best ways you can get people to shop at your store is to have a better price than the guys down the road. And so if you get a price increase, you need to make sure that you're getting the market rate on that price increase. And you have to push back. So it's an example of we need some specifics if we're going to swallow this line of thought on price gouging. But it applies across so many different things. They. It's the boogeyman. People like to blame the boogeyman because then they don't have to take accountability for their own actions, their own decisions, et cetera, et cetera. And, sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it sucks to take responsibility for your actions. But I will tell you, as a person who has tried and been successful at a lot of stuff and failed at a lot of stuff, that I've learned more from the kicks in the teeth that I've gotten than the successes that I've gotten. You have a tendency to get very focused when things don't go well. I was fortunate that I got to play baseball all the way through college, and I was a pitcher. And so when people ask me, how do you move on so quickly? How do you kind of compartmentalize and move forward after a mistake? And I used my baseball career as an example. By the time I was 3, I wanted to be a professional baseball player. And up until I married my wife and made the decision to walk away, that was what I was going to do. But so I was a pitcher. So if you throw a fastball and somebody hits it 400 feet, that's instantaneous feedback. You did a bad job. There's no disputing it. The ball's over the fence. The guy that hit it's running around the bases slowly. The umpire throws you another ball, and you get about 30 seconds to collect yourself. And you've got to go back and do the same thing you just did. You just did it terribly. Now you got to do it better so the next guy doesn't hit another home run. And by the way, there's like 10, 11, 12 other guys on your team that do your job. And so if you don't do your job really well, they'll just take the ball and give it to somebody else, and you don't get to play anymore. So you don't have time for emotion. You don't have time to cry in your beer. You don't have time to feel sorry for yourself. You don't have time to not make the adjustments that you need to make to be successful. You have to do it quick. You have to do it focused, and you have to be ready to go when it's time for the next batter to step into the box. And those are lessons I've been able to apply in my life. Things don't go perfect. I still screw up a lot of stuff. I'm by no means perfect, and no one is perfect. And you don't typically see people's failures. They try to hide them. They don't like to talk about them. I don't like talking about them either. It's not a lot of fun, but it's just true. It's what happens. So you got to think about it from that perspective. There is no boogeyman to blame stuff on. You should always be looking at, in any particular instance or situation, what could you personally have done better to get a different outcome? Because that's what you have control over. You don't have control over other people. You don't have control over how they think, how they react, what they do. You have control over how you think. You have control over how you react. You have control over what you do. And that's where you should spend your time and energy. And, along those same lines, it's not someone else's responsibility to do those things for you. It's not someone else's responsibility to provide you with happiness or fulfillment or support. It's great when you get it, But you know, you are responsible for it at the end of the day. It's not your parents' responsibility. It's not your spouse's responsibility. It's not your kids' responsibility. It's not your friend's responsibility. It's not your coworker's responsibility. It's their job to take care of their business. Now, I've been married to my wife for 31 years, and so we have things divided a certain way. Like, I do all the car stuff and I do all the finances and those kind of things. And she's been a stay at home mom, so she typically takes care of the food and runs our house. Um, but like, it's not her job to provide my happiness. It's my job to provide my happiness. Now, I care about my wife a lot. I love her very much. And so I try to go out of my way to do things to let her know that I appreciate all the things she does for me, because she goes out of her way to do things to show that she appreciates me. But it's not her responsibility to do those things. I really love those things, but it's not her responsibility to do them. And there's been times where she's had a ton of stuff going on and hasn't been able to do it, and that's how it goes. You need, as a person, to be able to deal with those situations and continue to push the ball forward and continue to move your life forward when you're in those situations. If you don't take responsibility for your actions and their outcomes, I look at it like you're just playing the lottery and you're hoping that the lottery provides for the grocery money you need or the rent money that you need. You are responsible for those things, not they, not some mythical boogeyman, not the government, not your company. Um, I think it's very easy to get lulled to sleep that if you have a W-2 job, you work for a company that provides you a paycheck, that's a safe environment. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. You don't know. Unless you're the CFO and you can see the books, or the CEO or the owner. You don't know the state of that company. It could be good. It could be terrible. It could be teetering on the brink and you're, days away from being out on the street. You don't know. Um, but it's your job to continue to make yourself better, to put yourself in situations where you can continue to advance and have new opportunities come your way. So like and it's okay if you don't want those things, but there's a trade off for not wanting to take the responsibility. It means you're always going to be kind of a cog in the wheel, and there's a trade off for that, and that's okay if that's what you want. I'm not judging anybody for wanting that or not wanting that. That's just not how it works. It's up to you. You are the CEO of your own career. You are the CEO of your own life. I say that as a CEO. I'm the CEO of a business. So it's up to you to take control of those situations. It's not up to someone else to hold your hand and guide you through it. It's not going to happen because everyone's got their own stuff to deal with. It's up to you to take care of those things. What are some things you can focus on to take control over your life? How can you change that mindset and really focus on really owning what you do? One is stop blaming. Don't blame other people for stuff. Even if they intentionally screw you over, don't blame them. It's up to you to look at it and say, how could I have done this different? I trusted someone I shouldn't have trusted. I didn't do all the due diligence I should have done. I should have been paying attention when X, Y, and Z happened. The spidey sense in my mind was going off and I ignored it. Stop blaming other people. I can tell you, I've coached a lot of sports as well as played a lot of sports. And one moment sticks out in my mind. I was coaching a hockey team. I can't remember. I think the kids were 13, 14 years old. And for those that don't know, if you're in a close hockey game and you're losing, you get down to the last minute or two. If you're down by a goal, you'll pull your goalie so that you can put another skater on the ice to try to score a goal to tie the game up. Because what does it matter if you lose by one or two? Even if you don't score the goal and you pull the goalie, you still would have lost by one. It's worth taking that gamble. And so we were playing a really good team, and we had our best line, best set of players out on the ice, and the face-off was all the way down at the other end of the ice. And you don't typically pull the goalie on a face-off, but I did on this one because I wanted to make sure we had the other skater on the ice already, and I had a high degree of confidence in my center to win the face-off. Well, he lost the face-off, and that's okay. Like you don't win every face-off. That's how it goes. And it was terribly unlucky on our part. We pulled the goalie. He loses the face-off. It gets drawn back to a defenseman who flips the puck up in the air. It goes the length of the ice and slides into the open net. So like 7 seconds after I did it, we lost. Like we were down 2 goals. There was a minute left. It was over. So the center comes over to the bench and says, "Why'd you pull the goalie?" And I looked at him and I said, "Why'd you lose the face-off?" And he was all dejected. And I said, "Tim, I'm not upset with you. Like we both have responsibilities. It's my job to make the decision on when the goalie comes out And I thought that was our best chance. It didn't work out. It's on me, 100%. But that's why I pulled him. I thought it was our best chance. I thought it gave us the best chance of success. If you'd won the face-off, maybe it would have turned out different. Maybe it wouldn't have. But your responsibility there is to win the face-off, not question my decision. So we need to understand what our roles are, and we both have to do our roles. And I own it. Like, I pulled the goalie. The goal's on me. I made the decision. I'm the head coach. That's how it goes. That's fine. But you need to take responsibility for your role in it. You should have won the face-off if it was that important to you. That's the way I think about it. So it was a good learning lesson for him, and he's a good kid, really good kid. But you can't allow those things to go unchallenged, and you can't allow people to become victims or make themselves victims, which leads us to be accountable. Be accountable for your actions. Be accountable for your mistakes. Own your mistakes. Don't run from them. Don't try to hide them. I'm not saying take out a billboard and say, hey, look what I screwed up. But when you know you were wrong about something, own it. Own it. I've had to do that a lot. I've been wrong on lots of stuff, and some of it really big stuff. And it sucks. Don't get me wrong. It sucks when it happens. But I also think it's good to get your clock cleaned every once in a while because it knocks you down a peg or two and it makes you realize, hey, I'm not as good as I think I am. There's tons of stuff I don't know. I need to be humble. I need to ask questions. I need to listen to people around me who know more than me. And the good news for me is there's tons of people around me that know more than me and are smarter than me on specific subjects. I love having those resources available to me. But you need to be accountable in those situations. Hold yourself accountable, which also leads to the next point, which is be honest with yourself. Did you actually try your hardest? Because many times people say, I did my best when they know they didn't. I've done it. I've tried to blame things away and rationalize things and say, well, if it wasn't for X, Y, or Z, we'd have been okay. Well, X, Y, or Z happened. And you don't have control over that, but maybe you should have been better prepared or differently prepared for X, Y, or Z to happen. Be honest with yourself about what you do and don't have control over. Be honest with yourself about whether or not you're accepting responsibility or you're acting like a victim, and stop acting like a victim. It's never a good thing. Even when you are a victim, it's never a good thing. You're not going to get any medals or prizes for being the victim, so don't embrace it. Run from it. Run from being a victim. You should take accountability for what is going on in your life and refuse to blame others for what is going on in your life. If you own it, you're going to have so much more control over it. You're going to take different actions, and you're going to get very different results, at least from my experience that you are. Next one is control your thoughts. So we've talked about this a lot. We've done specific episodes about it. We've offered lots of different ways to control your thoughts, ways to change your mind when it's this way and you want it to be this way. Physical exercise, breathing exercises, showing gratitude, all sorts of ways to do it. But you have control over your thoughts. And you hear it a lot when people say, I didn't have any other choice, or that I'm excitable. I'm emotional. I care a lot. Good for you. You're still responsible for your thoughts. You're still responsible for controlling yourself. I can't just punch someone and say, well, they had it coming, and I can't control myself in those situations. And like sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes, if someone is insulting to my wife or endangering my wife or kids, I got no problem with it, and I'm willing to deal with the consequences, even if that means whatever, going to jail or paying a fine or getting sued or whatever. I'm okay with it. There's certain things that are worth defending above all else. But you control your thoughts. You have control over it. I'm not getting in a fight about road rage or a basketball game or something stupid like that. I've done that. I was young and stupid like anybody else was. But now when someone tries to get big or puff or whatever, I always just say, nope, you're a lot tougher than me. You're right. You're definitely tougher than me. There's no reason for us to fight. Just diffuse it. Walk away. Control your thoughts. You have control over those things. And the last one is focus on your actions. What actions are you taking? So controlling your thoughts is one thing. What actions are you taking is another. I hear a lot of people complain that they can't get ahead at work. What are you doing to get ahead at work? Doing a really good job? A lot of times isn't enough because lots of people do really good jobs. What else are you doing? Are you taking other education courses? Maybe your job requires those. Maybe it doesn't. Are you getting trained or skilled on a specific piece of machinery? That could be a good way, especially if you're in the trades. Let's say you're an electrician. What are you doing to make yourself more valuable to the business? Are you learning more about electric circuits, about electricity itself? Are you learning about high voltage? Are you learning about underwater electricity? Like, what are you doing to improve your value and show your value to the business? Those are actions you can take that are important. You know, if you're in the professional world, what certifications are you getting? What a continuing education are you doing? What new projects are you taking on? How are you stretching yourself? How are you trying to make yourself better? Those are actions you can take that show you have control over your situation. So that's our episode for today, guys. I don't believe in the boogeyman. There's not some nefarious force that's out there to get you. Like I hear the deep state a lot. Like I agree. I think there's a lot of nefarious stuff that goes on in the government, but it's people taking those actions and they're hiding behind the government. So don't ever forget, those are real people making real decisions. And a lot of times, I don't even think they're bad people. They just get caught up in the moment. They get caught up with kind of rush of power, and they make bad decisions. But we don't have to accept that. We can control. We can exercise control over the world that we live in, and we have control over our actions, our thoughts, and holding ourselves accountable to become better. That's it, guys. Don't forget. I hope that's useful. I hope you can put some of that stuff into practice. Think about it and try to keep it front of mind. Don't forget to go to our website, saltygingertalk.com. You can see all our content on there. We got links to our social on there. We've got our newsletter on there. You can sign up for that. And we'd love to see you over there and get you added to our mailing list. Don't forget to like and subscribe to whatever service you're catching us on, and liking our videos and our episodes will sure help us get our name out there. So thanks a lot, guys. Everybody have a good day. I'll see you next time.